Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And so here we are. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor, and it is a rainy day. Rainy Friday. It is really coming down hard outside. But I'm not going to complain because we need that rain. Badly, we need that rain. And if we can get our weather systems to produce more rain, it will really help the lakes. The lakes are filling up finally. The streams are flowing. If you look at California, they're getting enough snow that's going to help them out on their drought. But they'll still say there's a drought, even though they've had a ton of snow and a ton of rain. But that is politics, right? Politics and the weather. But we're not talking about that this morning. Hey, I wanted to talk about, listen, we're getting more layoff notices out there. And there's going to be a lot more. And I'm hopefully you are preparing just in case something should happen. So if you have any way of putting money aside, put it to the side. So we have a new layoff notice this morning, DocuSign. And now I use DocuSign almost on a daily basis in sending out documents for clients to sign. And I was surprised they're laying off 10% of their workforce. Now, they're a tech company, and tech companies are getting really hit hard. But the reason why is because a lot of them overstaffed. A lot of them had too many people. Remember, technology is supposed to, eliminate people. They added more people. Google and Yahoo and Facebook and Meta and everybody out there were adding so much huge staffs onto their head count. They had too much in their head count. And as I've told you before, hopefully you're listening, but I've told you before, the number one expensive item on an income statement, salaries and wages. Always is. So there, anyway, DocuSign is having to lay people off. Inflation has taken over all these companies because now it's more expensive for them to operate. Just like us in our own personal lives, the expense of food and everything else has become so expensive that it overshadows what we're earning. So the money we're bringing in just isn't enough. And so companies are beginning to see that too. I read a really interesting article. Who was it written by? Let me see who it's written by. Axios. And by a writer named Matt Phillips. Now, he wrote a really good article. And the title of the article was Rock Bottom Jobless Claims Might Be Overstated. And he puts out a good point here. So I'm going to read through it, okay? Over the last few months, there's been a steady stream of large, high-profile layoffs. Even today, that's happening. While unemployment claims remain at rock-bottom levels. You know what, my cell phone isn't keeping up with me, okay? So why does that matter? So and he points this out in his article, and I like it. The apparent discrepancy is stark enough that some folks have started asking if generous severance packages are keeping this key measure off of the labor market artificially low. JP Morgan analysts decided to tackle the question, the big picture. The analysts estimate that severance payments tied to layoffs, which are typically part of the kind of downsizings seen recently at tech firms like Google, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, could have translated into roughly 50,000 fewer applications for unemployment benefits in recent weeks. In other words, their severance pay is so big that they can't qualify for unemployment yet because they're still getting this money in from the severance pay. So what they're saying, while rules vary by state, severance generally would either delay or reduce one's eligibility for unemployment insurance, so people who were laid off and have been receiving severance may not have filed for unemployment insurance yet. J.P. Morgan economist wrote, but, even if jobless claims were 50,000 higher, the data would still be consistent with a rip-roaring job market. A rule of thumb says a level of 400,000 on jobless claims is a tipping point signaling a possible economic downturn or slowdown. Even if it's undercounting the unemployed, the most recent weekly claim levels of 194,000 put together with a remarkable strong January jobs report suggests the opposite. I have been telling you for so long now, this jobs report that we're seeing is fake numbers. It's not a good report. The way that this jobs report is put together, it doesn't include a lot of things that affect the economic outlook of this country. This jobless report, as you read this article, says that people who have had large severance pays, and there's a lot of them in the tech industry, they walked away with good severance awards. And when they walked away, depending on what state they're in, they can't apply for unemployment yet. And we have had a lot of layoffs. I mean, a tremendous amount of layoffs in the tech industry. So we're going to see that number shift. That unemployment number of being low is not reporting the people who are sitting out there, several 100,000 of them, are sitting out there with severance pays that they can't apply for unemployment yet. That's a big number. And I've always said, I think Congress needs to take a look at how the unemployment numbers and the job reports that is put out by the government, how it tracks this information. Because if you've had 50,000, 60,000 people in layoffs, which is a common theme at the moment, that affects how many people who don't have work out there. So the unemployment level is much higher than what we're seeing it at the moment. And that's a big deal, because that's giving us a false indication of what the job market is actually doing. And the president is out there touting these low job unemployment numbers, when in fact we have a lot of people unemployed that are not able to apply for unemployment as of yet. So these numbers are artificial. They're low. And we need a better reporting system. The problem is when an administration like Biden's administration is making judgment calls based on bad data and not looking at the entire picture of unemployed and possibly unemployed and people who are just sitting there waiting to apply for unemployment. We've had a lot of job layoffs over the last few weeks. Started back in 2022. October, November, December, we started seeing job layoffs. And I told you before, the first quarter of 2023 is going to be tough because there's going to be a lot of people unemployed. And the next question, where are they going to go? If they're in the tech industry, and how they're going to get a job in another tech company if everybody's laying off. So we have to look at this very carefully, because if we're getting bad data in, we're going to be getting bad data out. In other words, we're going to be making bad decisions based upon a source of data that's wrong. And we've seen bad data in, bad data out on a lot of reporting, especially when it comes to COVID. We've had a lot of bad data. And it moved states and federal governments into certain directions that they probably should not have gone because they were receiving bad data. And the problem is it becomes political, so then they forget about the bad data because now they want to become political about it, and they want to be able to spread those numbers, which is bad data in, and we're getting bad data out to us. So we have to look at these jobs reports very carefully, and we have to look at the overall picture. Okay? If we say that there's, let's say, as an example, there's 124,000 that applied for jobless claims, how many people were actually laid off during that same period of time? And I'm pretty sure that you're going to see that it outweighs the unemployment claims because there's people still sitting there. They've just got laid off. They can't apply for unemployment right now because their severances are so big. So we have to look at this. I tell you, I'm looking at data all the time. And sometimes I see these numbers being thrown out by various organizations, and it only shows a portion of what they want to look at. It doesn't show the portion of other things that are affecting those numbers. And so they throw them out there because they want to push this agenda, right? Well, numbers have to be good in the first place. And right now in the jobs report, the numbers are not good. The data that's being presented to us is not good. And so we have to make our own judgment calls as people in business of exactly what the economy is going out. If we see that there's 124,000 people applying for jobless, how many other more people just got laid off? We've got 10% here, we've got 20% there, we've got several thousand here. I mean, those numbers on a weekly basis are piling up. And at some point in time, they're going to be hitting the unemployment lines to get their benefits if they can't find work. And when you've got layoffs going on, that means there's no work out there because other companies are slowing down. If you look at Meta, Facebook, and they're going through the process of their budgets. And so they're looking at headcount. How many people do they have in all of these different departments that they may not need anymore? And so Meta is looking at more layoffs within their companies. And they're justified in doing so. Because if not enough revenue is coming in to support these jobs, you have to cut. And I would even say, listen, the federal government needs to cut too. The federal government needs to act responsible and say, okay, in order to save money, we're going to have to lay off whatever the percentage amount is. In order for us not to have to raise that debt ceiling, we're going to have to lay off some headcount. Yeah. Government needs to do the same thing. If private industry has to do it, government has to do it also. So if the president was smart, he would say all departments have to reduce their staff by whatever that percentage is that's going to reduce the debt limit. That's the only way that we can get through this is through cuts. Listen, if you want to have more access to me, go to my website at www.lodge.co.com. If you have a business question, send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. Everybody go out and have a great day. I have links to all of these stories down below. Read them, weep, whatever you have to do. This is going to be a good weekend. I would suggest that each and every single one of you just take a little bit of time to relax and do some planning. Because we're going to go through some more layoffs. So get your financial houses in order. This is Mike Lodge. Love you guys. Bye-bye.